Yo guys, what's up? Welcome back to r/idontworkherelady, where a guy demands a cheeseburger from a fire investigator because he thinks that the burnt down McDonald's is still in business. So let's get started. Ma'am, I will never open this register. Backstory. 10 plus years ago, I used to work for a well-known point-of-sale vendor. I would go around and fix cash registers, scanner scales, receipt printers, and almost anything else attached to the register. I would do this in all manner of restaurants, grocery stores, and retail establishments. My company's dress code was business casual, but I often wore a button-down shirt with slacks. As you might imagine, my clothing and position behind the register often led to me being mistaken for a manager. Our story begins in a local Walmart during the blue "How may I help you?" vest era. I am standing at a register with a scanner scale overturned in front of me. I am wrist deep in the bowels of this scanner scale like some sort of horrible robot proctologist. I am trying to wedge a component out of the device and I'm having a rough time with it. I begin to hear and feel some familiar vibrations. I look up and see a customer unloading her groceries onto the conveyor belt. She will be middle-aged woman or MAW. I raise my voice a little to be heard over the constant din of checkout all around us. "Oh, sorry ma'am, but this register is closed." The MAW already has an attitude and grins and chuckles like she's got me trapped. I briefly imagine that she squats down next to the lane and scratches her back like a dog. She then continues to unload her cart.
"Well, I'm not putting these groceries back in the cart, so what do you think about that?"
I nervously laugh at her. She could not be serious, so I probe a little. "You realize there are registers open all around us, right?" Middle-aged woman.
"And you're the man that's gonna open a register for me."
Young naive me thinks that he can apply evidence and reason to the conversation to encourage her to F off. I then begin to point out things as clearly as I can. I point to the register light above me, which is off. "The register is closed, the light is off." I then hold my hands out to gesture at my shirt. I'm not wearing a "How may I help you" vest. I then lewdly thrust a hand into the exposed and gaping butt of the scanner scale. And I'm trying to fix this register because it's broken. MAW finished manhandling a 40-pound bag of dog food onto the conveyor, then turned to me and extended her tusks of entitlement and sneered,
"Then fix it. I don't care what problems you have. I have grandkids waiting out in the car."
I then briefly saw her face extend a trunk into the air and trumpet a note of urgency to punctuate her point. I quickly recovered from the shotgun blast of irrelevance she delivered to my face and I clenched my teeth for a moment. Okay, final warning. I don't work here, ma'am, and I will never open this register. And with that, I then ignored her and continued to work on the scanner scale. I expected her to do something, anything, and I wondered if she would escalate the situation by yelling or with violence or by demanding an audience with the unseen all-powerful manager. She did none of those things. She just watched me. In the next 5 minutes, I managed to wedge the brains of this unit out and swap in a replacement board. I restored the dignity of the scanner scale by turning it upright and having it face me again, ensconced next to the conveyor. I then programmed it, which involved scanning a series of barcodes to set various perimeters for the scanner. After that, I calibrated the scale. Somewhere between programming it and calibration, she abandoned all her items on the conveyor belt and I never saw her again. I'm sorry about the anti-climax here. I imagine she returned to the safety of her vehicle and completed her transformation into a bipedal elephant person, and upon doing so, began communicating with her grand elephant offspring to settle down in the back because she's decided to just make bamboo shoots again tonight. If you have watched until here, don't forget to post some stars in the comments to let me know that you are a subscriber. But we have plenty more to come, so let's continue. Sir, I'm not a spy. A little backstory. I work for a consulting company where I call on car dealerships, making sure they have all the marketing materials they need / assisting with any issues they might have with the products I represent. Oftentimes when I show up, the people I'm there to see will be busy. Typically, I will walk around the showroom and make sure our POS materials are on display while I wait. This makes me look remarkably like a salesman, and I've had to explain many times that I don't work at the dealership. One instance absolutely takes the cake though. I had arrived at the dealer and saw that the person I was there to see had customers in their office. I checked in with the sales tower to see if they needed anything and went into my typical routine of floating around. Not 30 seconds later, I hear a voice yell at me. I turn around and see disgruntled customer, we will call him DC.
I don't appreciate what you're doing.
Me? Huh? DC?
I told your man that my wife and I needed a minute to talk about this. This is a big financial decision for us and we need our privacy. I cannot believe you would come over here and spy on us.
Me? Sir, this is a misunderstanding. DC?
Don't try to weasel your way out of this. You see, this is why people hate car dealerships. You guys are all shady, trying to take advantage of the working man.
At this point, the sales manager arrives after someone drew his attention to it. Sales manager to DC, Sir, this is a big misunderstanding. DC to sales manager,
That's what your guys said. Don't tell me you didn't send this spy over.
Sales manager, Sir, this man does not work here. He's one of our vendors. DC appears uneasy and stammers,
There's no way that's true.
At this point, I did the only thing I could think of and gave him one of my business cards. He looked at me, then the card. DC,
Well, okay, but you guys are still shady.
I walked away to see the guy I was waiting on dying of laughter in his office. They called me the spy for months. Well, I can't say I would disagree with the last statement made by DC. Car dealerships always seem kind of shady if you ask me. But let's continue. Not even mistaken for a human. So this happened about 4 years ago. I worked in data support, as fun as it sounds, for a company that was situated in the business district of my city. In that job, it was extremely important to leave the building on your lunch. Not doing so meant others assumed you were having a working lunch. On lunch, I would go into the shopping areas of the city and just look around, grab something to eat, and ensure I was back in work at exactly the time I needed to be and no earlier. This day, I decided to go into Primark, which is a clothing store in the UK. I was casually browsing the shirts and completely in a world of my own. I must have been looking around the same area for a few minutes when I felt a presence to the right of me. Now, this isn't unusual, busy store, middle of lunchtime, and a fairly tight space between the close rails. I get fed up of looking at the shirts and turn to walk away, only to hear,
Oh effing Christ!
I turn to see the man that was stood close to me with a look of sheer terror in his eyes, staring at me for a moment in disbelief. This confused me a lot. I was about to ask if everything was okay, and this guy's terror turns to a relieved laugh. Covering his face and turning quite red at the scene he had just made in the busy store, he said,
I thought you were a mannequin.
By the way, have you guys ever been to Primark? I think it's not very popular in the US, but over here in Europe, people go crazy when they go to Primark. It's a beautiful day for a train ride. Right, so this took place way back in 2007 when I was in my early 20s working full-time at an auto parts store. I drove a white 1982 Nissan Pulsar. It was ancient, but no complaints. Relevant, I promise. By the way guys, what was the oldest car that you have ever driven? Tell us in the comments. It's 7 AM, I'm driving to work one morning and pull up at a crosswalk to allow a dog walker to pass me. Without warning, my passenger door opens and a gentleman hops in next to me, nods, says a friendly hello and buckles his seatbelt. He was a sweet-faced, white-haired senior wearing a sweater and brown pants, definitely in his 80s. I stared in shock and stumbled my words, totally bewildered by what was happening. He saw my expression and said,
"Oh, I'm sorry, the train station please."
That's when I saw the taxi rank near the crosswalk. Taxis here are white, but definitely not hatchbacks like my car was. He had a big cheery smile and, still puzzled, I realized that the local train station was 2 streets away from where I worked. I was heading past there anyway, and he did not seem like an ex-murderer, so why not? I relaxed a little, shrugged and said, sure thing. We drove off together and he peered out the window, smiling. He said,
"You taxis are much quicker these days. Oh, it's a beautiful day for a train ride, don't you think?"
He looked at me, still with this big smile, and said,
"I'm Jerry, lovely to meet you. I'm meeting my friend for breakfast today. I'm so excited, I haven't been on the train in years. All my friends have passed on and I don't really need to go out of town. Well, not until I made a new friend recently. It's funny how life goes, isn't it? An old codger like me with a breakfast date. Can you imagine?"
"Oh well, that sounds lovely, Jerry. Where are you off to?" He cheerily described the town he was visiting, an hour away by train, and described the store he wanted to visit while he was there. We chatted the whole way and I was so taken by how upbeat and cheerful he was. We pulled into the offloading zone outside the train station and he pulled out his wallet. I jumped in, saying, "Oh, no charge mate, I don't have my meter working yet." Telling a lie was better than deflating his happy spirit with an embarrassing situation. He was chuffed, it was a chilly morning. I walked him to the ticket office where there was a heated waiting room he could sit in until his train arrived. He thanked me, smiled and said,
"It's a beautiful day for a train ride. You take care now."
"Take care, Jerry." It's been 11 years and I often find myself smiling when I remember him. You see, that's what I love about r/IDon'tWorkHereLady. They have some really wholesome stories. By the way guys, on a quick side note, I have not done r/church drama in a while. If you would like to see it again, please tell me in the comments. I was finally freed today. Just a quick encounter I had with a crazy lady today. My kids have the day off from school, so I took the day off from work and we had a daddy/daughter's day. I took them out to breakfast and then a trip to the mall. We started off in one of the department stores and my daughters decided to start looking there for new outfits. Now I love my daughters, but shopping is absolutely not my thing. So while they are looking for clothes, I'm standing over by one of the counters, waiting and reading on my phone. I hear someone make a noise behind me, so I look up and there's a lady standing there with a huge armful of clothes. I figured she was heading to check out, so I moved over to the side of the counter. She says,
"Excuse me,"
and I figured she's talking to one of the employees. A few seconds later she yells,
"Excuse me,"
and I look up to see what's going on. That's when I realized she was talking to me. By this time, people are staring at us, including my daughters. This is the rest of the encounter. Me for me, CL for crazy lady. Me, yeah? CL?
"Don't yeah me. Take these, I don't want any of them."
She sticks the clothes out towards me. Me, yeah, I don't work here. CL?
"I don't care what department you work in, take the damn clothes."
Now on any other day, I would have simply told her to F off and go find someone who works there. But since I was out with my daughters, I decided to handle it a little differently. Me? Excuse me? CL? She's getting really pissed at this point and she yells again.
"Take the goddamn clothes."
And this time, she shoves the clothes into my chest. Me? I look down at the clothes for a second and then look at her with a huge smile on my face. Master has presented Dobby with clothes. Dobby is free! And I threw the entire pile of clothes back in her face. She was standing there, stunned/shocked. People in the store were cracking up laughing. My oldest daughter was trying to hide because she was so embarrassed, which is nothing new. I walked over to my girls and asked if they had found anything they liked. They hadn't, so we left. As we were walking out, I could see CL yelling at a couple of actual employees who looked like they were doing their best not to laugh also. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's a reference from Harry Potter. But seemingly, one of the best ways to deal with entitled Karens while shopping is to confuse them. But let's continue. Unappreciated, I don't work here lady. My first Reddit post, and I cannot find where her rules and presentation guides are. Hubby and I were shopping at a White Rose garden center many years ago. I use a wheelchair, so I could not fit down some of the annual flower aisles. Hubby left a cart with me and he would go back and forth picking out flowers that I had planned for our garden. We shopped there very often as they sold craft supplies as well. Lady approaches me and asks where certain flowers were, and I just automatically pointed them out to her. A few minutes later, she was back again asking about fruit trees, and again I told her where they were. When the woman came back a third time, I did not know where the item was kept, so I said I was sorry that I didn't know, but the people at checkout would be able to help her. She frowns for a moment and says,
"Don't you work here?"
Now the light bulb comes on and I reply that I don't. She just sniffed and walked away. I was a little miffed as I thought I was being very helpful. Then I realized I hadn't been ignored because of my wheelchair. The lady did not assume that I couldn't possibly be an employee because of my disability. So I choose to be grateful for her mistake. Usual folks only look at me and talk to my hubby as if I was not there. That feel when Karen was actually a good person because she did not assume that someone in a wheelchair could not work there. There was a fire. No, you cannot have a cheeseburger. I am a fire investigator for insurance companies. A few days ago, I was at a fire at a super common fast food restaurant helping another investigator process the scene and dig. All the fun parts of my job without any of the responsibility or report writing. It was so cold, if you farted too wet, your ass hair would freeze. So I was in black coveralls and my black Carhartt with a baseball hat and a regular N95 mask because fires in fast food restaurants are gross, you know? I looked in no way like a restaurant employee. Even with the black clothes, you could tell I was covered in soot and debris, and what restaurant employee wears an N95 that's been stained black? I was standing outside in the parking lot with another investigator that was there and we were chatting, taking a break from being in the grossness from inside. The parking lot has been filled with debris. On one end of the parking lot, there's a 9-foot tall pile of random burnt crap. On the other end of the parking lot, in front of the drive-thru, are all the roof ventilation systems that are half burnt and melted in a big pile along with a whole assortment of burnt crap. There is caution tape everywhere. There's fire debris haphazardly strewn throughout the area. There is a very visible hole burnt in the top of this building. There is a goddamn fire engine parked at one entrance of the parking lot with their lights on blocking the entrance. There was no way to misunderstand what had happened at this building. A man in an old van drives by with his window down, slowly staring at us. He has this inquisitive look on his face. He drives past the first entrance, then attempts to turn into the entrance blocked by the fire engine. He backs out, turns around, then turns back into the other entrance, headed right for us. I say us, the other investigator wisely caught on to what was about to happen and whispered, "Good luck," and hauled ass back inside, leaving me alone with van guy. That damn guy. Anyway, van guy drives around the big ass pile of ash and stops in front of me. He says,
"Hey, what happened here?"
I replied for what feels like the millionth time in my career, "There was a fire." He says,
"Oh, what started it?"
And for the millionth time I replied, "That's what we are here to find out." He says,
"Oh, okay, well, can I have a cheeseburger and a medium fry?"
Trying very hard to not say what I truly wanted to say, which was some variation of, "Dude, do I look like a fast food worker?" I told him that no, there was a fire, you cannot have a cheeseburger. He then proceeded to ask,
"Well, can I have a large Coke then?"
Again, no, there was a fire, you cannot have a damn Coke. You know how you can see when someone has a moment where they have a moment and it finally clicks? This guy had that. He looks at me and asks very intently if I work there. I say no, I'm here investigating the fire. He then asks, and I will never forget it,
"So they are closed, but why?"
Feeling like I have met the universe's densest star, I replied, because there was a fire. He finally just says,
"Oh, okay, well bye."
and just drives away and out of my life. I'm still not sure he truly understood why he couldn't have his food. I walk back inside and the a-hole who left me there to deal with Jacques Clouseau himself is standing there and just asks how it went, because I work with a-holes. And a nice extra comment posted by Ham Kitten. I used to work at McDonald's in Walmart and we closed an hour earlier than Walmart did. Because we didn't have doors, we would put shopping carts and signage in the doorway to make it obvious that we were closed. One night, an older gentleman came up to the doorway, methodically moved every obstacle out of his way, approached the counter where I was cleaning up and putting things away for the night, and said,
"You guys should really move that stuff out of the doorway. It makes it look like you're closed."
You know, that is so dense, that's almost adorable. Anyway guys, that's all the content I have for you today. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe if you enjoy my content, because I love to read all your comments, and liking and subscribing would help my channel out a lot. If you're new around here, I upload daily and my loyal subscribers are called Ripe Stars, and usually when we like a story we post some stars in the comments. But either way, thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic day and I see you tomorrow.